Welcome to Once Upon a Real Life with Belle. This podcast is proudly supported by our friends at ActiveFlex, the Australian family-owned and manufactured gel designed for long-lasting relief of sore muscles and joints. Don't forget to follow, subscribe, and leave a comment so you never miss an episode and can join in the conversation. My guest today needs no introduction in the world of coffee. He's the man who turned a love of espresso into an empire. He built DiBella Coffee from the ground up and then brewed even more success with his passion for leadership, business, and giving back. He's a philanthropist. He's bold. He's driven. He always has got something brewing. Please welcome the one and only Phillip DiBella.
Thank you for having me. Geez, that's quite an introduction. Very clever.
Yeah. Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah, philanthropist. I enjoyed that one. That was solely and wholly me writing that one.
Fantastic.
So tell our listeners, let's talk about you growing up. What was childhood like for you?
Yeah, son of migrants. So my brother and sister were born in Italy, in Sicily. My brother's 13 years older. My sister's 11 years older. Mum and dad migrated here 60 years ago. So I was first generation and grew up at Toombul. It's not called Toombul anymore. A beautiful street called Alicia Street.
Why is it not called Toombul anymore?
They call it Nunda now. Many years ago, they got rid of the suburb of Toombul and just made it Nunda. I don't know why.
Even the train station's now called Nunda?
Yeah, I believe so. But something listeners wouldn't, I probably have never spoken about, is I grew up in a dead-end street. A no-through road. Good mate of mine that lives in the same suburb as you, and he's in a no-through road, and it just brought back memories seeing his kids on the bikes and go-karts out on the street because they live in a no-through road. And it was just one of those warm, and I turned 50 this year, right? And it was just one of those warm and fuzzy feelings taking me back to my childhood growing up at Toombul, I still call it Toombul, in a no-through road where all the neighbours knew each other. Very rarely would you see a stranger's car unless it was somebody that lived in the street or a visitor. And of course it was, car comes down and you're staring at it. Who is it?
Yeah, so and everyone runs off the street.
Well, especially with a bunch of wogs, you got your own neighborhood watch happening too. Because it's such a privilege. Like I was thinking about it just on the weekend. I thought, what a privilege that was. And of course, not everyone can live in a dead end street. The roads would go nowhere. Yeah. But lucky because I didn't entertain myself, right? Because my brother and sister both got married early and young. So I was a tennis player. So lucky we lived in a brick house and it had a big yard the house was small, but the yard was big and it had a good brick wall. And
you could bounce it off.
Well, Dad being Italian, he concreted everything, except we did have grass and I had to cut it as a young kid. But I used to hit the ball around, and if mates came over, we'd hit the ball out on the tennis ball on the road. It was great for riding. So yeah, good childhood. Good. Brought up working class. Mum and Dad were working class. Dad worked at the Royal Brisbane Hospital as a gardener. Earned $450 a week. It's a very well-known story. No brand new cars.
That's a lot of money for back then.
Yeah, but he worked on Sundays, and that's why he earned a bit more.
That's really good money for back then.
Yeah, and he worked on Sundays, and paid his house off within 10 years of being in Australia, but then never bought anything else. Spent the money on the kids, and that was a privilege, right? Like I grew up with great food in the house. Probably too much great food, but good people around, close cousins and stuff like that. So it was a really, really family and community oriented, and something I've brought in now across my decades. And it's one of the things that I talk about in business is business is just a vehicle. It's got to have a heart and soul. It's got to be loaded with community. It's got to have a purpose. It's got to be purpose driven. It's got to be people focused. And that's something that I've already, 23 years of owning businesses now, and across the world. We've done stuff in New York and India and China, and it's the same model. What problem do we solve? What makes us relevant? How do we tell a story? But it's about community and people and purpose. So
I think you've just hit the nail on the head. People, the people that you have around you in that business, if they trust you, if they like you, if they've got respect for you, they're going to work for you. Yeah. And then in turn, they're happy and they're doing the best work they can because they respect you.
100%.
It's so important.
I talk to people all the time, obviously, and at one stage I had 400 staff across different businesses, and I'd always start with, how are you? How's your family? And they're like, and if there was other people that are around, they go, does he always ask you how you are and how your family is? Oh, always. He always does it. It's like, let's have a meaningful conversation. How are you and how's the family? Okay, now let's talk about work or, whatever it is. And don't get me wrong, I'm a hard taskmaster, those will tell you, but I'm always harder on myself, right? So I'm a 1%er guy. I like the 1%er. I like the small things. You can get technical things wrong, but please don't get the small stuff wrong. We're working with young people now in the cafe, 15 and 16-year-olds, to try and help breed that next generation. And I said to them, you've got 3 mandates. You've got to be able to look at me in the eye and introduce yourself. and smile.
Mm.
You've got to have a good work ethic, meaning you do what you say you're going to do. If you say you're going to show up at 8 o'clock, you show up and all the rest of it, right? So you've got to have the commitment focus. And number 3, you got to dress appropriately because these days, sounds funny, but they'll turn up with singlets or thongs in hospitality. And we'll go, if you can do those 3 things, we can teach you anything, So it's attitude over skills. We're fortunate enough in hospitality, you can do that.
Yeah.
You can't do that with, a neurosurgeon or a bloody dentist or a doctor. You couldn't do that. But in our industry, it's not rocket science. Bring a good attitude to work, bring a dedication and commitment, and dress appropriately.
100%.
And we can do the rest. But it really is. I mean, things, 5 decades now, turning 50. It's the evolution of seeing how people evolve and their expectations and what they value and what they don't value. And the commonality I see is the people that are kicking goals in life are grounded. They're forward thinking. They're the ones that sit down and, will write down or put on their phones what their outcomes are personally, professionally, and family or circle. We now talk about, your family or your circle of influence, have outcomes or goals in all 3 areas. And manifestation and visualization. And, it's like, and people say, well, is it all bullshit? Well, I love analogies, right? And my background, strategy, marketing, branding. So I talk some would say riddles sometimes, I talk in stories. And I say, well, imagine getting out of bed and having nowhere to go. And how many people in life do that, right? They get out of bed, they've got nowhere to go. You can flip that straight away. Spend 10 minutes, get a piece of paper and a pen. And I still like piece of paper and a pen.
Same.
Where do I want to be in where do I want to be in December 2026? Because December 2025 is around the corner. Where do I want to be in December 2026? Personally, me, do I want to lose weight? Do I want to learn a new language? Do I want to trek somewhere? What is it that I want to do for me? What do I want to do for my family or circle of friends? For me, it's take all school holidays off with the kids. So I do that, right? And what do I want to achieve on a professional level? And whether that's a work or whether that's owning a business, whether that's working for somebody or working 2 jobs, whatever it is, and people understanding that those 3 areas define a whole of person. And if you have something in all of those 3 areas, you've got a purpose, you've got a reason to get out of bed. You've got a reason to wake up. You've got a reason to get up, spruik yourself, and get on with it. So
just take the first step. Write it down and then work toward it.
Yeah.
And give yourself a timeline.
Yeah.
Like
reverse
you say,
engineer it.
Reverse engineer it.
Yeah. Start with the outcome in mind, and bring it back. And, advice that I've done with my kids, they turn 18 and 16 next year, and how quickly time flies. Oh. And I say to them, there's 3 elements, grades are great. And we're fortunate enough, their grades, they put a lot of effort in, they're smart cookies. Yeah. But then there's 2 other things, work ethic and the ability to win with people. And if you can combine your good grades with, I was a B student, I wasn't a straight A student. I'm not book smart. I'm that visual learner, auditory learner. So of course the school system is not great for me because I'm not a recall expert.
I would say 80% of my guests so far, you're like number 39. I would say 80% have said that exact same thing.
Yeah. And the system doesn't let you don't shine. If you're just looking at grades, you're not going to shine if you don't have recall ability. And that's okay. And that's something I like to share with people to say, if your kid doesn't have recall ability, that's okay. Don't get hard on the skill set.
There are other skills in life.
Well, I'll tell you. And the 2 most important is commitment to work, a work ethic, a worker. You want it, you got to work for it. And with that comes a lot of branch offs. Don't think badly of others that are achieving. If somebody's driving a car you love or buys the boat you want or the house, then don't let the jealousy fuel you. Let the outcome fuel you. If you want to be that person, we never owned a brand new car. And that's why I've got a fascination with cars. Because from a young kid, I had to remember the RACQ number off by heart, right? Yeah. Because we'd break down once a month because Dad couldn't afford brand new cars, but we had the best food on the table. We had a house paid off. We had everything.
Priorities.
Safe. Correct. Dad's never been overseas. And I've offered to send him and he doesn't want to go. He'll holiday within Australia, which I've paid for and happily pay for. Because to me, money's a resource. You got the resource, you use it. You don't have a resource, you don't.
Can't take it with you.
But you teach your kids work ethic. And then the big one is winning with people. When somebody's talking to you, don't bury your head on a phone. I do that with my kids. Somebody comes and says hello, you shake their hand, you look at them in the eye. If they're engaging with you, you respond to them. But enjoy life too. Smile more. Have some more fun. There's a reason why my dad worked his ass off and migrated to Australia so I could have a better life. And there's a reason why I've worked my ass off so that my kids, and if we work on that ethic and down, we should be breeding smarter people. Unfortunately, some people shouldn't be breeding at all.
People. And that's a whole other story right there. Yeah. But can I just underline what you just said there? Yeah. If you are having a communication with somebody, you're speaking to somebody or somebody's there in your space, don't be head in your phone.
Yeah. Be present.
It just feels so disheartening to have a conversation with somebody and they're doing this.
Oh, totally. And
it
I've
makes me feel like stopping talking.
Well, sometimes I've got to be conscious because I am a multitasker and I can be listening to you and be on my phone and listening to the TV, radio or whatever. But it's the perception that gives. Hey, you're not giving all of you to me in this moment, right? And
I'm unimportant.
Yeah, and that's wrong, right? Yeah. And that's not winning with people, and that's how we train our team. DiBella was an amazing story, right? It started from scratch, became Australia's largest coffee company. And when we researched our customers and said, why do you choose us? It was never about the coffee. Now, of course, we had great coffee. It blended well with milk. You didn't need sugar. We were the first guys to direct source everything from farms. So we controlled the quality and all the rest of it. But every one of our customers said, you guys care about me. You care about my business. And so what we were actually built at DiBella was a business that cared about people. It helped cafe owners make money. It helped people accelerate their potential. Of course, coffee was how we transacted, whereas 2,000 of my competitors or colleagues were selling a bag of beans. So we actually registered the words, it's not just a bag of beans. And that was a reminder to me. It was a reminder to the exec team. It was a reminder to the whole team that everyone in the organization mattered. It didn't matter if you swept the floor, packed the box, answered the phone. You mattered and you need to show care, priority, and attention to the customer. Customer's not always right, but the customer is the most important piece of the puzzle.
Yeah, and that's what it is. It's a puzzle. Yeah. So if you've got a beautiful puzzle there and you're missing a piece, it's noticeable.
It's finished. It's not complete, right?
It's not complete.
And I said the same thing. I was delivering a session to cafe owners yesterday down at the Gold Coast, and I said, what are you doing to show your customers you care? And that one question built a half an hour discussion to which they built strategies at the end of it. Just that one question. Boom. What are you doing to show your customers you care? Are you welcoming at the door? When they get up to leave, are you going over and saying, thank you, see you next time?
And that's what brings people back.
Of course it is.
100%.
People always remember how you make them feel. And that's something that people, I see people all the time that they go, I'm going to become a great accountant. And then their personality shit. Or I'm going to be an exceptional, builder, but then they don't know how to communicate to people, or they don't get back to people, or they don't, they don't show up.
Yeah, or they're dodgy and overcharged.
Well, they're dodgy and overcharged. Yeah. It's not a hard model. And the model really is, how do I connect with somebody, right? And it's a transaction, right? And I don't mean that in a terrible, I mean, what do you need from me and what do I need from you? And what underpins it all is communication, the ability to communicate. And I often say the common denominator of failure is poor communication. And whether that is a menu, so communication is not just talking, it's the way you present, it's your body language, it's being on the phone when people are trying to engage with you. They are all communication, factors. And the common denominator of failure, and we see it in restaurants. Yeah. If you go to a restaurant and there's only one thing you want on that menu, that's poor communication because you're only going once, right? Because there's so many great options. If you go to a restaurant and there's 10 things you want to order on the menu, you're going to come back quickly. And that is a menu communicating to you. So when we talk to people about,
everything looks good. I have to come back.
It's like.
Do you know which restaurant is that for me?
You tell me.
Yoko.
Oh, Yoko's great. Yeah. They do a great job, right?
Everything on that menu I want.
Yeah. Yeah, and I can, there's
that's
a fair
in Brisbane.
few. Well, there's a fair few for me, there's Rich and Rare, Yamas, Fat Cow, 203. I mean, these are restaurants that I go, geez, if I want to go back to being overweight, I'd order 5 or 6 different things.
Is 203 the one near Cloudland?
Yes.
Holy
they do a magic
balls.
job. Yeah, that's fully integrated, right? They breed their own cows and the whole lot. Brendan does a great job, and
and what's it actually called?
203.
No, there's a word in front of it.
It was establishment 203.
Yes, okay, now it's just 203?
Yeah, there was a bit of a stoush with some guys in Sydney. Unfortunately, somebody in Sydney was getting a bit peasant about the word establishment.
Right, so 203 is in Brisbane.
Yes.
It is this amazing restaurant, and everything has got a little bit of beef fat in it. I had the most beautiful dessert.
Beef tallow.
Yes, the beef tallow.
It
was like a chocolatey fudge dessert, and it had that hint of beef, and it was just so Moorish.
And the butter,
delicious.
they do the same thing. They put tallow butter with a candle.
Yes.
They do great stuff.
Guys.
Yeah, they do great stuff. I mean, and Brisbane's got so many great restaurants, right? So we say, hey, if you want people to keep coming back to you, you got to communicate the menu. Yeah. Your menu's got to speak to them. It's got to, explain what's on there. It's got to talk in a way.
Story.
That's right. I mean, again, it comes back to meaningful conversations.
100%. Can we go back to you as a boy,
Yes.
not as a child? But okay, first thing, were you always a coffee drinker?
Yes, I was. I started at the age of 11 because I used to have to make Dad's coffee on a stovetop. Dad's a coffee freak. And, and so when I was old enough to reach the stove, and I always had a fascination with cooking, and Mum used to teach me in the kitchen cooking stuff all the time. After making him coffee all the time, I thought I'm going to try this. And I tried it. And because he drank no sugar, I drank with no sugar, which is quite rare because 90% of people.
Beans? Were you like?
Yeah, fresh beans. He used to go to Cosmopolitan, which the irony, right? Cosmopolitan Coffee was the first roasting house in Brisbane on Brunswick Street, the Valley. He used to take me there as a young kid to buy fresh roasted coffee because they used to roast their coffee, and then we'd bring it home. That's where I started. That's where I learnt my craft. At 17, I started working there as washing dishes and cooking in the kitchen because I worked for my brother when I was 15 and learnt and had to wash dishes and make pizzas and pastas and stuff. And then at 17, when I started uni, I worked at Cosmopolitan Coffee because it was owned by a family who then went on to be my sister-in-law. So that's where I met my wife. So it's got a bit of history, but that's where I started as a young kid. Dad used to take me there once a month, get fresh beans. We'd grind them at home. So you had to grind them, on the old bloody buzz grinders, grind it and then make the stovetop. And he'd have coffee, in the morning after every meal. So morning, dinner.
And you'd smell the aroma. And then when you're 11, you're like, I'm just going to have a little taste.
Yeah, had a taste. Because, we'd have visitors over 2-3 nights a week, different cousins and stuff. And it was, that was the entertainment then, right? Because people didn't go out partying and this sort of stuff. You go to a restaurant maybe once a month. But you'd have visitors over all the time. And it's a real Italian and, it's a real European thing. The visitors come over, not just the Italians. But it's not the alcohol that goes on the table. Because it's the coffee, right? And then Mum was amazing and still is an amazing baker. So she's making all sorts of stuff that people crave now, cannolis and profiteroles and sponge cakes and biscuits and pasta mandorla and all this sort of stuff.
And is your mum still with us?
Yeah, she is. I'm fortunate enough. Dad's 89, Mum's 81. They're still kicking. Dad's still breaking my mother's balls. Yeah.
Oh, God.
Which is an Italian saying. Yeah. So he's all right. We always gauge if Dad's doing well on how irritated Mum is. So she's irritated. He's doing well.
Well, my journey with coffee, so I wasn't a coffee drinker as a child, and it would have been Nescafe that was in, Blend 63. That would have been in the cupboard. And then I remember I married my husband, and he took me to a coffee shop and he bought me a mocha. And it was, and I loved that because it's got a bit of chocolate in it. So that was my journey. And then when we were married, we could only afford Nescafe Gold or 63 Blend. And then if we were having a good week financially, it was Java. Okay. Stepped it up that $2 and we thought we were so rich. And
it's amazing, isn't it? I mean, the journey of coffee is phenomenal.
Yeah.
And we're talking about this morning in a session we're doing. It's not a product. It's a lifestyle.
Yes.
Coffee is a lifestyle.
We could not do without our machine now. So I think we bought our first machine probably 15, 20 years ago. And when they die, which is usually around 6 years, we do get a good life out of these machines. I think it's good too. And then we need one straight away.
Yeah. And I believe it was in COVID. I still believe it's one of the top 3, if not the number one, selling white good for the good guys and all the rest of it. Yeah, because especially now with obviously the economy, everybody disposable income is down. People so here's a stat for you. People are drinking less coffee in coffee shops, but the consumption of coffee is going up. So, and it's in the homes and it's in the offices. So people will still have their one coffee in the coffee shop, and they should support your local. These definitely. Businesses need to be supported. But what we're pushing cafes to do is create their own coffee blends so that people will have one in your shop and buy a bag to take home.
Take it home.
And that way they're still supporting the local business.
That's exactly what I do. Yeah. Down the road is a fantastic coffee shop. I'll go to the gym. I'll have a coffee after. I could come home and have coffee, but I buy it from them. Support the local. And then I'll buy their beans.
Yeah, and that's perfect, right? And that's an ecosystem.
Yeah.
And that to me is community and ecosystem. And people say, what's your wish list? Why are you back in business and doing what you do with the Coffee Commune? We've built a community. We've got 1,700 members now on the community side. And they told me that I wouldn't be able to get anyone together, right, in the industry. 1,500 members in 5 years.
I can't wait to hear about this.
110 coffee roasters working out, solving the problems that I had when I started.
Oh, see, this is how you give back. I can't wait to hear that. Okay, so let's talk about the time that you bought this coffee cart.
Yes.
Did you buy a coffee cart, and how old were you?
85, and I bought a coffee cart, and I went to Jan Power's farm. Well, I begged her to allow me into the market, and only because she knew me from when I was younger. Where's the market? So it was at Powerhouse. Still is. The Powerhouse markets still go. Yeah, so I went to Jan and I said, Jan, I know you've already got a coffee person being Merlot, and they do a great job and they've built a great business. I said, I know you've got Merlot, but your market's pretty busy and there's a big lineup with coffee. Will you give me a go? And she's like, and she's passed away now, God bless her soul. She was a real icon for Brisbane, Jan Power. And she looked at me and she was like, Phillip, the way she used to, big orange hair, and she'd look at you and you'd think she was, off with the fairies, but she'd just look at you and she nodded and she goes, my dear, there's something special about you. And you know what? Let's trial it, right? Because back then the markets were every second week. Let's trial it. Let's give you a go. I like you. And I'll never forget. And I just said to her, and I was so appreciative, and I was like, Jan, thank you. And she's just like, you're very welcome. Let's just see how this goes. So turn up. I had to get this coffee cart built, and it was this 26 years ago, and 25 years ago. And I get this thing built, and it's so bloody heavy. Then I had to go buy a trailer, and she's given me 4 weeks to do this, right? She goes, you need to be up and going in 4 weeks. So I'll give you two trials. So for a 1 month trial, so two days. And I'm thinking, shit, this thing's cost me like $4.5 grand, and I'm only really got two days locked in. But you know what? Let's give it a go. So frantic rush, got this thing built, bought the trailer, and then worked out that 2 people can't lift this thing to put it on the trailer. So I had to go and get ramps made. So we get ramps made. And anyway, fast forward a month later, me and Jana, my wife, so Jana and I turn up at 3:30 in the morning, start setting up, and and took us probably an hour to set up because it's the first time we've ever done it, and you're waiting there, and we were next to, and you're going to love this, so we were right next to King of Cakes, which back then so Wolfgang, and we're still mates 26 years later. He's in Thailand, I think, at the moment, but because they used to have a King of Cakes here at Grace.
Yep.
So he was our neighbour, and at 4 in the morning, you hear this, German boys, welcome, and I'm there shit myself at 25 going, oh, we just invested all this money. I don't know if this is going to work or not. Anyway, I think we made, the first day, I don't even know, we probably only made about 50 coffees. And you're seeing those blue cups walk past, and I'm just sitting there, and Jana's getting a little bit disheartened, but always supportive. She was working in government at the time, right? But, and I was just glad that 3:30 in the morning she's there. Most people wouldn't be, but, and she goes, something's going through your head. And I'm going, I'm working on ways that we only get one more shot at this as a trial. So I'm just going to work out how we're going to do this. Anyway, we rock up 2 weeks later. And
what was she basing the trial on? The amount of sales you made?
I didn't know at the time, right?
Okay, no idea.
At this stage, I had no idea what the trial was, right? And I thought, and it comes back to winning with people. So the first thing I did was got there earlier, and while everyone else was setting up at 4 a.m, I made a whole heap of coffees and took it to the store holders for free. So I got there earlier, set up while they were setting up. I was going, and I went round and gave everyone coffee.
Of course you did.
And everyone was like, oh, okay, wow, thank you. I just want to say that welcome to the market. Thanks for welcoming us to the market, da-da-da. So winning with people. The next thing I did was a little bit cheeky because I had my confidence in, right?
Yeah.
People walk past with a Merlot cup. I'd go over and I'd say, because most people drink cappuccinos flat whites. No, I went over and I said, I just want you to try my coffee. I don't care if you throw it away. I know you're brand loyal to Merlot. They've been here from the start, and we don't mean any disrespect, but I just want you to try our coffee. Yeah. It doesn't need sugar, and it blends well with milk. Yeah. And so back then you didn't have social media, right? Back then, 26 years ago, you didn't have, barely had digital phones, right? So you'd see their face and they'd drink it and they'd be like this, and they go, I normally put 2 sugars in this. Right next to us was a bin. 3 and 5 would throw their Merlot away, and next. So when we sat down with Jan, I said, how did we go? She goes, love, the store holders love you. I love the way you've approached here, because obviously she didn't want us to upset Merlot. No. And we didn't want to upset Merlot. They were there first, and they're doing a great job.
But
and I believe they're still there.
Competition.
Well, I believe they're still there. And I think there's 4 coffee vans there now, right?
This episode is brought to you by our friends at ActiveFlex, the Australian-made pain relief gel that helps soothe sore muscles and aching joints. For long-lasting relief, look for ActiveFlex at Chemist Warehouse or search ActiveFlex Gel online. Always read the label and follow the directions for use. If your pain persists, chat with your healthcare professional.
And that's how it grew. So then, of course, we had started a wholesale business.
What beans were you using?
Well, I'd created DiBella Coffee.
Oh, you had created it.
Yes, I'd already started DiBella, but I hadn't got that roll on yet. The market was when we started, then the demand went. So we used the market to drive the demand. So I was roasting at Balimba Bean back then in Oxford Street. I was using his roasting machine.
Yeah.
And this is where the Coffee Commune model's been based off now, right?
Yeah.
So I was using Balimba Bean's roaster after hours. I was packing out of my garage, and our only forward-facing retail was the market. And so that's how it came together. So I trial tested the market. And then as we started to get that rolling, and of course, we grew every second week, we got busier and busier and busier.
Did you get that lineup?
Totally. And what would happen is that they would go into their local coffee shop and go, have you seen this new brand DiBella? You don't need sugar and it blends well with milk, because coffees were quite bitter.
Oh my gosh, so bitter.
Yeah, you fast forward now, 90% of coffee is amazing, right? And people like Merlot, people like DiBella have put it on the map. And then we went on to become Australia's largest. So we replicated it through Melbourne.
Everybody knew DiBella Coffee.
Yeah, well, we had 11% of the market share.
Of course you did, yeah.
11%. 2,000 competitors, 11% of the market. And when I say biggest, in cafe supply.
Yeah.
Because there's, you got companies there is one company that's bigger, and I don't like mentioning their brand, they don't deserve the plug, but they're big in supermarkets. We never played in supermarkets. So we dominated cafe supply. So we were the biggest in terms of market share, volume going into cafes in Australia. And because we owned our own distribution network. So I'd set up distribution all over the country.
And how old are you then? How old
by the time we became the biggest, it was 2010.
So that's only 10 years.
Yeah, it took about 8 years it took to grow from the smallest to the biggest. And then I exited in 2017.
So this is all because of you and your personality and those 3 traits that you
and
live your life by.
And having people around me, right? Like building great teams. We would bring people in with the right attitude, everything I said before, and we would teach them the skill. I spent a lot of time training people side by side. Like I'd travel 3 weeks a month. I'd be on the road. I built every state with my BDMs. I was in the car with them. It was side by side. I'd meet every new customer.
Were you working 7 days a week?
I was.
Did you have children? No, you
not yet. We had 2008. We had Annika, and then 2010 we had Ali.
Yeah.
And that's when it got really difficult. Annika in 2008. I was traveling a lot to Melbourne, building Melbourne. Annika was on 17 plane rides by the age of 1.
Wow.
And then it was just too much. It was enough's enough. And then, and that was that was a shift, momentum shift, traveling on your own. There's nothing glamorous about traveling for work. There's only so many, times you can go and drink wine and
so true.
And hang out. And then you're sitting in a hotel room and going, well, okay, waiting for the next morning to wake up, so I put on a lot of weight. It's a lot of pressure. Blood pressure starts to, your doctor goes, you've normally been healthy. Now you put on weight. Now you've got blood pressure problems.
So it's physically affecting you. It's taking a toll on your physical health, working so hard with kids. Did you get a burnout?
I didn't get burnout. I got anxiety, but
did you?
The first time I hit anxiety, I thought I was having a heart attack because there's heart problems in the family. Dad had a heart attack at 55. He still survives. He's doing well. He's 89.
Passed away from a heart attack.
So I was always conscious.
Right?
Yeah, that's young.
Yeah.
That is so young, right? And so that was in the back of my mind, so the anxiety that kicked in, and that was an experience.
What did it look like?
Shortness of breath, sweaty, clammy, all the symptoms.
All day, every day, or in particular situations?
No, particular situations. And then I had to sort of break it down and analyze it. And for me, so it was like when I'd stop. So back then you'd go to Blockbuster to get a video, right? You're standing there at Blockbuster, and then all of a sudden it hit me. Getting on a plane, settle into the plane, sit down. Within 5 minutes, it was like, what's going on? Shortness of breath, clammy. So for me, what it was, I had to start working through it. It was my body not keeping up with my brain. So when my brain went, hey, we're stopping now. So plane, movies, the body's going, we're not stopping. The adrenaline's going.
So it's overstimulation.
It's overstimulation. Yeah. So what I had to learn to do was to calm the body down. And that's when I got into meditation, got into that visualization, got into breath work. Now we're talking, 2012, about 2010, between 2010 and 2012, getting into that.
Breath work
is amazing.
I haven't done it, but you're the second person.
And it can be simple. Like people don't, like a simple one is breathe in for 4, hold for 4, breathe out. It's called box breathing, right? Breathe in for 4, hold for 4, breathe out for 4, hold for 4, right? So it's that just straight away. But even just big, short breath in, big breath out. That gets your heart rate down straight away. So they're my two go-tos, right? With breath work. But now I find myself in the morning when I wake up, even if it's 2 or 3 minutes, deep breathe, deep breath out, deep breath in, deep breath out, and that night before I go to sleep, it just becomes part of your
routine.
Yeah, but it came on the back of that, and now I don't think you ever get rid of anxiety, but you know what to look for.
Yes, and you can. Well, for me, I can decompartmentalize.
Yes.
And allow myself to understand this is a moment in time. It's not real.
Yeah, this too shall pass. Yeah. This too shall pass.
This too shall pass. Because my anxiety will come out of nowhere too. Yeah. I'm not sweating, but I'm not shallow breathing, but I just feel this emotion of stress and fear and worry. But then I can't find what the cause is. So then I know that it's anxiety.
And then the brain starts to play the tricks, right? So I've got these little hacks. So here's my hack with that. Is that if it's a one-way door, meaning it's irreversible, I slow down and make very careful decisions. If it's a two-way door, meaning I step through it, but I can come back, I don't hesitate. Right?
You step through?
Yeah, I step through. That's what, because to me, stress is often the inability to make a decision. So what happens is we get faced with a situation, we can't make a decision, and it's like,
what do I do?
So my hack is, can I come back from this door?
Is it regrettable or can I?
Yeah, even down to simple on the menu.
Yeah.
Yeah, like went to dinner with a mate of mine last night, and it was at Rich and Rare, right? It's a steak restaurant, and I'm going, well, I should probably have steak, but I don't want to have steak. It's 7:00 at night. I'd rather not eat meat late at night. Anyway, the waitress comes over and she's like, and the owner had told her I was coming, so look after them, give them our best cut of meat.
Yeah.
And I didn't order steak. And a mate of mine, and he's going, are you not going to order the steak? James like, and I said,
look where we are.
I said, mate, let's not make a big deal of this. I said, no, I'm going to order the prawns and I'm going to order a salad. And you know what? If I don't like it, I can come back through the door and just go and order steak. And he went, okay, makes sense.
Call.
And I said, it's not a one-way decision. It's not a dead end. It's not like I go through that door and I can't come back.
No, I can never have that steak.
Some things you've got to slow down. So that's what I use for me when it comes to that decision. And then I underpin it with, what's the worst case scenario? Worst case scenario is I feel like steak, I'll just order one, right? Like, what is the worst? I did that when I started the business. I did that when I sold the business. When I started the Coffee Commune. It's my go-to. What is my worst case scenario?
Oh, take that, listeners. Take that. That is the best piece of advice. That is fantastic.
Yeah, it's my go-to. I mean, it helps you, and then you see as a cascade of it. If you adopt that ideology, well, then you're less likely to stress. Am I going to worry? Of course there is. But worry and stress are two different things. I use my worry to keep me sharp. I use fear to keep me motivated.
How do you do that?
Well, again, it's programming of the mind, right? Your body does what your brain tells it. So here's another one for people is Dr. Joe Dispenza.
Okay.
Look it up. Unbelievable, groundbreaking stuff, right? And it's very simple. It's about quantum physics and, neuroscience, but it's things like your body will do what your brain tells it to do, right? So that's where the visualization manifestation comes in because people understand.
That's slowing down right now. That's being in the moment.
Correct.
Keep going.
Yeah. So people go, oh, I manifest, but do you know why? The why behind it is your body will do what your brain tells it to do. Your body knows no different. So if I sit you here and go, right, I've given you a lemon, I've cut it in half, you're putting it in your mouth, and you're tasting sour. I bet you right now you're getting these tinkly things around a lemon. Yeah? Lemon makes your mouth sour and makes it change, even if it'll change the dynamics of your saliva right now. Me just talking about it. I haven't given you a lemon.
My saliva is built up.
There you go. Now, if I flip that and I say, take some water, put it in your mouth, drink the water, here's a Mars bar. Now the caramel's oozing, you put it in your mouth and you get this sweet sensation through it. Can you feel change?
Yeah.
I haven't given you a Mars bar. Now we've just done that in 30 seconds.
Now I want a Mars bar.
No, but we've done that in 30 seconds, right?
Yeah.
Do you see what I mean?
Yes.
Now, all I've done is program your brain and your brain's told your body what to do. So they did a study years ago. They took somebody over 30 days to lift bench press, right? To bench press. And they both the same standard, the whole lot. One person had to lift weights every day in practice. The other person just had to visualize it. By the end of the month, they both lifted the same amount.
Wow.
One did the work physically. The other one did the work mentally. That is the power. And that Dr. Joe Dispenza is just one of many, but he's my go-to in that programming my brain. People go, how'd you get through your weight loss? And how do you stay sharp? And how, a lot of people say, I've never seen you so calm.
I never even knew you were heavier than this. I just said to you before, you look buff.
70 kilos heavier.
Are you working out?
Yeah, I work out all the time. Yeah.
Wow.
107 kilos I used to weigh. And now
where did that go?
Well, it's a process. 8 years, right?
8 years.
8 years. And now I'm down to 92 kilos. So the difference, right?
Yeah.
Like I pick up 30 kilo dumbbells in each hand now, which is 60 kilos. And I go, how the hell did I do this? Like,
it's up here.
Oh, it's just crazy.
It's the muscle.
Yeah, and it's destination versus journey. I used to yo-yo with weight because I always worked it and saw it as a destination. I now enjoy the journey. I enjoy the journey of waking up early, going for a walk or I box twice. I still box. I've had a few charity fights, but I box and that keeps you, fit and lean.
But I imagine that's also good for your mental health.
Oh, it's brilliant for your mental health, right?
Like having a routine, you go for a walk, you go to your boxing, you lift your weights. That's what you do.
Yeah.
And if back to what you said earlier, if you get up and there's nothing to do, maybe that's somewhere to start for people. Go put it on your note, your piece of paper. Go for a walk.
Yeah. Well, start with the outcome. The biggest tip I've got is start with the outcome, right? And for me, the outcome was health, not weight. I want to be healthy.
Yeah.
Now, of course, with healthy means what?
Kids.
There's obviously measurements and stuff you got to hit to be healthy, but I want to be healthy. What I never did before was use the resources around me, right? And so like I've got a clinical nutritionist and she's brilliant. brilliant. So she looks at it and goes, give me a day on the plate, da-da-da. And she's like, you don't eat enough. You train too much. You're not eating enough protein. So in the last 3-4 months, I've dropped 8 kilos.
From protein?
I've leaned out because I'm not doing anything different except listening to an expert that says.
Just really briefly, what's your breakfast?
So breakfast is eggs, avocado. I still have a piece of bread sometimes. Sometimes I don't. But
sourdough or something.
But the winner is that the hero has to be protein.
Yeah.
So it's not have to start with the bread and then the eggs. It start with the eggs.
Right.
Then the avocado, bacon, whatever.
Yeah.
Then if you've got space, because I eat smaller, then it's the bread.
Right.
At lunch, it's the chicken or it's the protein that's got to be the hero. Not start with the bread. What are you going to put in the bread? See the psyche? Start with the chicken and then build it out and then get to the carbohydrates at the end because you still need carbs. But something I didn't know, double your body weight is what you should be having in protein a day. So I should technically be having over 180 grams of protein a day.
Double your body weight. Okay, so me too then.
Well, there's only
180 grams.
Yeah, but there's only 5 grams of protein in an egg. So how the hell? So I'm barely make 100 grams of protein a day, right? Otherwise,
what about shakes? Protein shakes?
Yeah, well, I have to supplement 20, 30.
To supplement.
Yeah. And then supplements, right? You get a nutritionist to tell you your proper supplements, what you need. Like if you need zinc, you take zinc. If you don't need zinc, don't take zinc. Multivitamins are a waste of time because they're fairy dusted. And then there is a such thing as overtraining. So what I did was, like I said, through a clinical nutritionist, got an expert on board and said, hey, I've got the resources to do it. Let's do it. And you've got to work with the right ones because I'm not a freaking athlete. So I don't sleep twice a day and da-da-da. So we've got to be real about it. So, but
and you still work. So you have to work it around what you're doing.
But start with the outcome in mind and then get the resources around you. And because we all, what our biggest problem is? We all make excuses. And I made excuses for so long. There was always an excuse, at the beginning of the year, I was over 100 kilos. I was still lean, but I'm a lot leaner now.
Yeah.
And I mean, how lean will I get? I don't know. I mean, maybe another 2 or 3 kilos. But I still have
the goal is not weight loss.
No.
The goal is health.
Yeah.
And for you, being active.
Yeah. Yeah. And being mobile, like I do a lot more stretching and stuff like that. And
I love stretching.
And it's about when I hated it, right?
Did you?
Yeah. I had to, I'm okay with it now, but it took a while.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing, you know what? Get comfortable with being uncomfortable. Because we all, our body.
I was uncomfortable in jeans, full stop, but in jeans doing my shoes up.
Mm-hmm.
That was difficult.
So that was a trigger for you to go, hey.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And everyone's got different triggers.
Yeah.
And and don't be judgmental.
Yeah.
Like, I've brought up in a family that's not judgmental. In Sicily, there's a saying, mind your own business, you live 100 years in Italian, because if you don't mind your own business, someone might put a bullet in your head, right? And so it's a real cultural thing with Sicilians is that's not my place.
Yeah.
But
for me, it wasn't about the weight either, because I actually think that I carry weight quite well. So if I do put on 10 kilos, I don't think you're going to go, Belle, you look like you've put on weight. Well, no one would say that, but I don't think you would think it because I actually
everyone
carry
carries weight different,
quite well. But for me, noticing it, simply putting on clothing,
and that's
is
what
huge.
I say to people. It's what you feel, because I go to mum and dad's now, and you can imagine you're too skinny. I said, I don't think skinny and me go together. I think I'm fit, I'm lean, I can be leaner, but I'm not skinny. Like my bones don't allow me to be skinny. Right? Like I've got a broad shoulder. I don't want people saying you look muscly. I want people saying you look fit. And and people saying, oh, you look healthy, right? And you fit and you feel healthy, because if you look healthy, you feel healthier.
So I figured you would have sold DiBella. So you did that in 2017. I would have figured that was because you were maybe burned out.
I was cooked. I was
cooked.
Were? Well, no, not burnt out. I was done.
Yeah.
Big wake-up call when you go visit your doctor and your doctor says you're the fittest fat fuck I know, lose weight. And that was his words, quote unquote.
Yeah.
You're the fittest fat. And it's been documented in media. And fittest fat fuck I know, lose weight. And I went, oh, you're going to die. And I went, that's lovely. He goes, no, I'm not kidding you, mate. He goes, you're not going to have any warning signs. And he's still my doctor. I love him dearly because he just tells it how it is, right? Yeah. And he cares. Like now he does my bloods twice a year and he goes, you're disgustingly healthy. I love it. And that's pretty cool when your doctor goes, you're disgustingly healthy, right? Yeah. He checks everything, hormone levels, all sorts of stuff.
So you didn't get offended. I got offended when my obstetrician for my third child, I put on 10 kilos in probably 6 months. And she said to me, if you keep going at this rate, you won't fit in my door the next time you walk into this office.
Yeah, it's a bit
I was so
bad,
mad.
That bed manner is pretty bad.
I was so mad at her.
Yeah. But look, and that was the thing for me. And closest people to me reminded me, you're a son of migrants. You always said enough money to do what you want when you want. It is a young kid. I want to be a millionaire. And then I went, no, I don't want to be a millionaire. I just want enough money to do what I want when I want. And I was like 12, 13, and I was able to I probably had a lot of wisdom at that age because, not because of me, but because I had to. I was surrounded by older cousins. I was surrounded by amazing, beautiful family. Mum and dad, I was the one that would have to make their appointments, read their letters. You're forced into a position to grow up a lot quicker than you are. And my brother and sister were loving and nurturing and really family orientated. And my cousins were beautiful and older, and they would always, I'd always be around older people. So, it was like, no, it's not about money. It's about enough to do what you want when you want. It's a resource, and I had, relatives and friends with that encouragement. I was the first cousin to ever go get a degree at university.
Wow.
But again, I was encouraged. I had a beautiful community around me that was encouraging me to do this. I remember when I wanted to drop out of uni because it was too slow, and my brother was like,
Studying's hard.
Well, I just got bored, right? And because I was like overachieving, and so I started working full time at the same time I did my degree. And my brother goes, do you really want to quit something? You're going to start now quitting something you've started. So I had people that would always pull me into line in a nice way and go, hey, when I went to go,
mentors.
Well, my dad would go, oh, you go work in government, get a degree, go and work in government. And my brother-in-law worked in government. My brother-in-law, I still remember the day, we're sitting having a coffee, right? And he says to me, Phillip, you could work in government. You got plenty of skills and talent. But he goes, you won't like government. He goes, you want to be entrepreneurial, go and work with private business. Yes. So I did. I went and worked for private business and worked there 9 years and then started my own company. So my brother-in-law, with that advice, was a pulling me into line going, you could do government, but is this you?
Yeah.
So I think that's important and not valued enough is the right people around. So building your community, meaningful conversations, really being connected, knowing what your outcome is, visualizing where you want to be in 3 years, 12 months, and if it changes, it's okay.
Yeah.
I tell my kids, like Annika knows, my daughter finishes grade 12 this year, AI robotic engineering, Papa. Okay, well, that's what you want to do. Fine. My son, international business. Fine. If you change your mind, that's okay too. He's grade 10. But
they do change their mind.
They do. But you've got to. I wanted to be a lawyer, then I wanted to be an accountant, and I didn't know, so I ended up doing commerce. Fell in love with marketing and strategic HR. Right? Like I had some goal.
Exactly.
Do you know what I mean? Like you've got to have a purpose. You've got to have a outcome. That's why I've replaced the word goal with outcome or purpose. You've got to have an outcome. You've got to have a destination. And if that destination changes, that's okay because you just alter your course. But if you don't have an outcome or destination, you don't begin.
Yes.
And if you don't start, you can't achieve.
And even when you get there to whatever that idea that you would like to achieve, that doesn't have to be the end. Like one of my daughters, she's a nurse and she loves it. And I said to her, a couple of years into her working as a nurse at the PA hospital in Brisbane, I said to her, you love your job? She said, I love it. I said, so do you want to be there doing the same thing in 10 years? And she paused and she said, oh, definitely not.
Yeah.
I said, well, now is the time to start thinking
what that looks like,
where you want to be in 10 years.
That's right. And that's what it should be like, right? Versus, oh no, I just don't want to be where I am today. Tomorrow I'm changing. Changing for what?
Yeah.
Like, why make a brash decision? Why? Okay, I want to be here. Put the steps in place. Patience is something that we all lack at times, and I that includes me.
And me.
I always say I'm not a doctor, so I don't need patience. But call it whatever you want. It's that moment to say, enjoy the journey, not the destination. One of my biggest flaws was I was always destination focused and it used to shit everybody around me. I can tell that. And now that I look at it retrospect, I go, it used to piss me off too. It was always what's next. Whereas what I've learned in the last decade in my 40s, what I learned in my 40s was the ability to say, be grateful, appreciate, pause and go, pause and go, pause and go. And that's something that served me well now. And if that can help 20-year-olds or teenagers, like my son at the moment, dropped him off at school this morning. And I said, oh, did you sleep well last night? He goes, yeah, Dad, I slept well. I said, you just don't seem, he goes, yeah, I'm just a bit over school. And I said, well, that school's part of a bigger picture, right? And he goes, yeah. I said, no, I'm serious. Like this is one moment in life, right? Because you'll find when you're out of school, you wish you were back at school.
100%.
That's normal. When you're at uni, then you wish you're out of uni, then you want to wish you're back. Like this is common behavior. And I'm sharing that with you. I'm sharing my wisdom because I've been there, right? And I always say the older somebody is, the more life they've lived, the more wiser they are. Mm-hmm. Especially people that have been through some atrocities. They're the wisest people around because of what they've been through. So, and we don't share wisdom enough, right? And I'll come to that in a minute. But so I'm sitting there with my son saying, this is a moment in time and it's part of your journey. So think about where you want to be in 5 years. And he wants to be at this stage, international business. He goes, when I land my first great job, I want to buy myself a Rolex. He set a goal like that. I said, so whenever you get shitty with school, think of that goal you set, think of that outcome. that you want to land a job in international business, and the moment you land your dream job, you're going to reward yourself with a Rolex. I said, and it doesn't have to be a Rolex because it's not about materialism, but you've made that goal. So when you're having a tough day today, think of that 5 years, 7 years, whatever it is. Teleport yourself into that space and reverse engineer it.
Oh,
and
I love
10
that.
minutes of getting out, on the way to school, he gets out of the car and he's got a pep in his step. Thanks, Dad.
He's in a better mood.
Yeah, love you. And that's community. Now, it's not just your parents. You want to have them. Some of my best mates are best mates with my kids, and vice versa. Peter's kids, I love those boys, right? They ring me to tell me they've achieved this or done that. Yeah. And I'm so happy and excited for them. And that's a village. That's a community.
Love it. My daughter babysat them quite a few times.
We've got to value that more, right? We've got to value. And coming back to the wisdom, the smartest place in the world, the cemetery. Because the music dies within so many people and everybody's got a story. And that's why I love hanging around older people and I love meaningful conversations and I love speaking to them and talking to them. And one of my favorite books ever, audiobook, and I encourage people is...
Can I guess?
Yeah. Tell me.
The one about, is it Abe Lincoln?
No.
Something in the Bardo.
Yeah, that one's good. It's
I'll insert this here.
Eddie Jackhouse, Happiest Man on Earth. The audio book is next level because he actually talks it.
Wow.
And you hear the emotion in his voice about, good men, and so many millions of people die because good people did nothing. No one ever thought that, that the ideology of Hitler would ever get any traction, but look at what happened. And so some key takeaways, right? When a guy like that is the happiest man on earth and what he's been through, which is atrocious.
Yeah. He was a Jew?
Yeah. In back in the German days and all that. And then he ended up he settled in Sydney. I didn't even know that, Sydney, and he died at, I believe, at 103 a couple of years ago. But Eddie Jackhouse, like the wisdom, you listen to that and you think you're having a bad day, listen to him. You think you've got a shitty life, listen to that.
Absolutely.
And there's some great lessons in it, like Gandhi's words, be part of the change you want to see. People follow me on LinkedIn and go, why do you get involved in the politics stuff and this and that? Because I come back to Eddie Jackhouse, look at what happened because people did nothing, and what's happening in Australia because people are doing nothing. Just got back from Dubai. Why is the UAE becoming a superpower? Because they mind their own business. Their whole foundation is around no corruption, no cheating, no lying, and total respect.
And they're probably forward thinking 50, 100, 150 years rather than us here in Australia. It feels like we're thinking 3 years for a politic term or 4 years at best.
Yeah, with no accountability, right?
Yeah, accountability. And where's the 50 years? Where's the 100 years?
Yeah.
I have so many ideas.
But where are they coming and working with industry? That's one thing I push hard. That's why I built the commune. Now with 1,700 members, the politicians have to come and play with me, right? Yeah. Because I don't take any of their money. I don't do any government
I've got two that I want to speak to that I cannot get access to. I'm going to hit you up later and see if you've got an ear of them.
But we push hard, and we push hard for the right reasons, right? I want to see hospitality grow and prosper, and it's not. 1 in 10 closed last year. Oh. One in 10 venues closed last year in hospitality, right? And there's going to be more this year and there'll be more next year. And that's why I do what I do and I be part of the change, helping people.
So this is the philanthropy. This is it. With the commune.
Yeah. So we're doing some great stuff there. Like I said, the community side costs us a lot of money, but over $1 million a year I've put into that to fund it.
Yeah. Can you tell me what it is?
So the Coffee Commune is the brand of it is a place where people come to collaborate, right? So, and it's made up of two parts. It's a facility. So it's a $20 million facility where you can come and manufacture 100 grams of coffee, a kilo of coffee, or thousands of kilos. Yeah. So you've got startup roasters work out of there, overflow so people don't have to go and invest more money in bigger machinery that can come there, or breakdown. If Merlot broke down or Campbell's broke down, they can
just bring their beans over.
That's right. They can bring their own beans, their own workers. So that's the commercial side.
Yeah, and where is it, sorry?
At the where the old DiBella site, because I own the buildings, Abbotsford Road. So coffeecommune.com.au, they can see about it. And then the other side is we built a community like a chamber of commerce. So it's got over 1,200 cafes a part of it. Then you've got lawyers, accountants, solicitors, anyone that does business with hospitality, food suppliers, milk suppliers. Their job is to give each other, do business together. We don't take any kickbacks or rebates. Do business together and give preferential pricing, preferential service. So we've built an ecosystem. Our brand promise, our purpose, our why, our outcome to accelerate people's potential.
And did that come to you before you sold DiBella or after?
That came in 2017 when I sold, and I said if I was to come back, the DiBella Coffee head office at Brisbane, their lease was up and I'm the landlord, was coming up in 2019. And I was like, again, I'm futuristic, right? I look forward. I said, if they don't renew the lease, because there's a good chance they won't, then what am I going to do? And I don't want to open another coffee company. So I said, I had this vision and I said, I'm going to build a WeWork. I'm going to build a WeWork style, a community hub. And everyone's like, are you cracked?
This, yeah.
Well, I got called all sorts of names. You're arrogant because you built a coffee company from nothing and did well. You think you
why
got
do people do this?
Because, well, if we had to worry about what people say, we'd go nowhere in life, right? But I don't. I use those negatives as fuel. It really fuels me, right?
Yeah, and
in
look
a positive
at
way,
you.
I just fuel it and I go, yeah, keep telling me I can't do this.
Yeah.
Love it.
It's driving me.
It's driving because I'll just keep working. I'll keep spinning that Rubik's Cube. And what I did was I've got this vision, and it took a while. People go, you can't get two roasters in a room together. It took about 12 months for people to really understand I wasn't opening a coffee company, right? Now we've got 110 roasters working out there, collaborating, right? Now people come to us and go, what would you do? How can we do this better?
You're a mentor.
We need your support. Yeah.
And because of your personality and because of the way that you live your life, God, you would have changed so many and been the idea for change for so many.
Yeah. Well, it's part of, again, Gandhi's words. I'm not nowhere near as wise as him, right? Be part of the change you want to see in the world. And if you use that as a motto, I want to see change. Well, what am I doing to change? That goes with me. If I want to be able to buy clothes a lot easier, I need to change.
Yeah.
If I want to be calmer, what do I need to do to change? I need to do the change, right? I need to teleport to the outcome and then reverse engineer the way to get there. And more importantly, you have to execute. So, when I do a lot of business stuff, I say to people, the outcome and the planning is one. So, sorry, the outcome starts first, then your strategic plan, and then don't miss the last part, the execution. Because if you don't execute, it doesn't happen.
It was just talk.
Well, the trading, remember the old trading post, or now it's Marketplace?
Yeah.
Full of great intentions.
Yeah.
Brand new Walker for sale. Well, whoever bought that started with a good intention, but they never executed. That's why it's brand new. It's for sale now, So it's got full of a lot of good intentions, Marketplace. People buy shit to get healthy or to get smarter or whatever it is.
Yeah.
People buy books and then they leave them in the shelf and don't read them. If we want a smarter society, what are we doing to be part of that? And that's why I do a lot of that give back mentoring. I go and speak at schools. Almost if I get any speaking, I do charge speaking fees for companies, but I get them to donate them. So they donate them on stage to a charity of their choice. So I did Australian swim schools down in Sydney, 600 people in the audience. I said, they said, what's your cost? I said, what's your budget? They told me their budget. I said, they said, you happy with that? I said, yeah. I said, but pick a charity to donate it on stage.
You know what?
So
they're just going to have so much respect for you and they're going to tell people about that. And you are that's why you're a philanthropist.
Well, it's just been part of the change I want to see, right? I've got enough money to do what I want when I want. So I'm okay with that, right? And it's a message I send to my kids and I believe in energy and frequencies without getting woo-woo. I really believe in that. What you put out there comes back. I've noticed that me being a lot calmer now and more centered and people go, what's changed? Well, wisdom has changed. As I go through the decades, I become wiser. And as I become wiser, I look back and go, I was shit at that. I was no good at that. So I do a lot of self-reflection and that's that go, pause, go.
That was one of my questions, but I haven't even looked at my questions for you today because you're so fantastic. You've already answered most of them.
I haven't bored you to death.
No, absolutely. Absolutely not. The very last question I will say to you, Phil.
Yes.
DiBella.
Yes.
Have you ever seen a ghost or a UFO?
I believe I've seen a ghost. I would say yes to a ghost, and but no to a UFO. I haven't seen a UFO.
What was your ghost? It
was staying in Guatemala on one of our trips, coffee trips, and we stayed in an old convent. It's coming back now, really vivid day. We stayed in an old convent that it was a beautiful hotel, and Guatemala's a beautiful country, right? Not exactly safe, but beautiful country in this convent. And I remember coming back home. We'd gone out for dinner. One of the farmers had taken us out and we'd probably had too much wine. And at the time it came back, and I'm getting ready to go to bed. And I thought that one of the boys had come into my room to talk to me. And I start talking. And I'm like, oh, how good was tonight? Tonight was great because I could hear noises. And I'm going, oh, tonight was great. What do you think? And nothing's coming back. And then I can still hear these noises. I'm going, what are you guys doing? You're playing games or something? You're hiding something in my suitcase or, and I walk out and I sort of see this flutter away. And I'm getting goosebumps now. I'm going, and at the time I'm going, oh, I think I've just had too much wine or I'm hearing things, right? But no, I was in the bathroom. I thought I could hear noises out there. And I started this conversation thinking that it was someone. And
was it like smoky? No,
it was like if a sheet was floating, like a tea towel. Imagine like it was the size of like a tea towel, but sort of caught, it'd be like I'm here and you're walking out the door and I just capture that last glimpse of you. And it was just this last glimpse.
And there was nobody there.
No, No. And again, at the time I thought, have I had too much wine? But then I go, and like I said, thinking back now, you get goosebumps and you go, okay, well, that was a bit strange. Because I definitely heard the noises. Do you know what I mean? Like I definitely heard noise. It was like a rummaging, sort of, and it wasn't just a shh and stop. It was like rummaging, like somebody was moving around. And again, I was in the bathroom and I think I was brushing my teeth and I was like, oh, hey guys, yeah, oh, hey, what'd you think of tonight?
And there is nobody there.
And then that's why I walked out expecting to see somebody and I just catch this, like it was just like a shimmer. I'm like, okay.
You've definitely just seen a ghost.
Not a UFO.
No, I've never seen a ghost or a UFO, but I am so intrigued. All three of my children have seen
I think
ghost.
it's all possible. I don't.
Absolutely.
I do not.
I am open to it, but I haven't seen.
Yep.
And the UFOs, oh my God, one day I'll see one.
I mean, as long as it's a positive experience.
You can take me with you guys.
That's no, but it's look, I believe in it. Again, a frequency vibration. I think that there's a reason why we have deja vu, right? Like everyone's had deja vu. How can you have deja vu? Is it, some will say, oh, it's because of your memory and you had a dream and okay, well, where do dreams come from? Like why could you have a dream that you've,
been here before?
Yeah, been here before and all the rest of it. Yeah. So, I mean, again, without it being woo-woo, and everyone has a right to a different belief. And that's what a faith is. Faith doesn't have to be a religion. Faith is whatever you have a faith in, what do you believe in? But I do believe in that sort of stuff.
Yeah. Amazing. Can I say thank you so much?
Okay, thank you.
I purposely didn't do too much research on you because, like I said, I feel like I already know you through our friend. And I'm enamored by the way that you present yourself, the way that you speak. I think it's fantastic how humble you are. Thank you for sharing your time with me today.
I'm a good son of migrants and it's never, I was brought up well with good values and never thinking you're better than anybody and all the rest of it. And don't be jealous. This is dad's words, mum's words, dad's words. Don't be jealous of people. You want something, go and work for it.
I'm the same.
Don't expect anything.
Do not be jealous of people. Build them up. And if you want it, you work toward it.
Totally. And be happy. Like, I mean, probably overused in our household. Happy, but be happy. Like, mum and dad, I'd ring mum and dad 3-4 times a week. I go visit them once a week. And it's like, first thing, are you happy? Are the kids happy? How's the family? Are they happy? Is everyone happy? Like that's their measurement of success.
You've been brought up beautifully.
Yeah, I have. And one of mum's favorite sayings, keep your fingers on your pulse. Don't get too ahead of yourself. And that's some advice I share with people now.
Stay grounded.
Let's keep it grounded. I'm not saying my mate, one of my best mates, Jason, I love dearly. He's a neurosurgeon. There's no such thing as a bad day for him. Meaning he cannot have a shit day because somebody dies, right? And when you hear the stories and, this precision's got to be done within a millimeter and this has got to be that and this surgery took 13 hours. What do you mean 13 hours? Yeah, 13 hours nonstop. We get fed by a tube and, to keep our hydration up and you just go, you know what, people, you don't know what you don't know.
He gets fed by a tube.
Well, he has to because he's got to keep operating, right? Or, and I mean, when you hear stories like this, you go, and I'm worried whether somebody mopped the floor, really come on, let's put things in perspective. So it really is, I think, and that's the grounding part. That's the part where I say we just need to show bigger perspective. And
so when you're having a rough day, put yourself in someone else's shoes.
Totally. Somebody who does have to has, people diffusing bombs. Do I cut the red one or the blue one? Well, someone's going to blow up if you get this wrong. Yeah. Nothing's going to blow up if in our industry, to an extent that you can't come back from, right? Even a fire in the wet, which happens a lot in roasting machines, a fire you can come back from, right? Like you can do all sorts of stuff. So perspective is something that we need to think a little bit more about. And, and ultimately, and I'll finish on this up, no removalist truck follows a hearse to a funeral. No removalist truck. So life is measured in moments. That's my saying. It'll be going on my tombstone. And that plot, I'm short, so mine will be shorter. If you're 7 foot tall, your plot will be bigger, but no plot's going to be bigger than say 10 foot. And it's not coming with you.
Nothing's coming with you.
It's really, and that is something that I live by. Life's measured in moments. No removalist trucks following me to a funeral. So it's not about possessions. It's about moments. I own possessions. Possessions don't own me. And that's a good way to be. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Phil.
It's been great. Sorry, now I'm going to get the out of here. And it's been great. I could talk for hours with you.
Thanks for listening to Once Upon a Real Life with Belle. This episode was brought to you by ActiveFlex. Don't forget to follow, subscribe, and leave a comment. And if you loved this episode, go back and check out our previous conversations. There are so many stories you won't want to miss. Thanks again for listening.